On 7th of October 2021, Reliance Industries officially announced that Reliance Retail has entered into a master franchise agreement with the 7-Eleven company for the launch of 7-Eleven convenience stores in India. And this deal has taken the market by such a storm that the stocks of Reliance rose by 1.5%. And while every single news channel has been announcing this deal over and over again, none of them actually told us why is this partnership such a big deal. Which is why in this episode today, let's try to understand what exactly is the story of the incredible 7-Eleven company, why is this partnership such a big deal for the Indian retail revolution, and most importantly, how is this going to affect the billion-dollar business war between Amazon and Reliance, and for that matter, even BigBasket and Grofers. This is a story that dates back to 1974 when an American company named Southland Corporation, which already owned a chain of convenience stores in America, decided to extend its chains in the Japanese market. And in the next 30 years, this company became so successful that they had 11,310 stores in Japan alone and had a sales of $22 billion. And this Japanese subsidiary became so profitable that it ended up buying its own parent company. Now this begs the question, how did a small convenience store become a billion-dollar company? Well, as it turns out, the mastermind behind this unbelievable growth of 7-Eleven was a man named Toshifumi Suzuki. To tell you about it, in the 1970s, Suzuki observed that the retail market of Japan was undergoing a paradigm shift wherein the market was transitioning from a seller's market to a buyer's market. In simple words, seller's market exists when the demand is way more than the supply of the products. So in Japan, from the 1940s to the 70s, which was the post-war period, there were very few companies producing milk, tobacco, snacks, etc. Therefore, the focus was only on the functionality of the product and not on the brand or the specific features. For example, in India, during our parents' time, if people asked for a toothpaste, it really did not matter whether it was a Colgate or a Pepsodent. But today, we are very specific that we want a Colgate or a herbal toothpaste or a Patanjali toothpaste. Just like this, in the 1970s Japan, as soon as more players entered the market and the population became richer, the consumers became more choosier about their spending. And Suzuki observed this paradigm shift and he saw that there were three critical weaknesses in the existing supply chain in the Japanese market. Number one, in the seller's market, the wholesalers and the manufacturers determined both the supply and the variety of stock. But both these entities were not considering the changing preferences of the consumers. Number two, because the wholesalers did not consider the consumer preferences, even if the retailer ordered a particular product, they would ship an alternative product instead of the exact product in demand. And lastly, in the seller's market, deliveries arrived on the supplier schedule and not necessarily when ordered. Therefore, the inventory management became more and more inefficient. And all these weak points led to a ton of missed sales opportunities that ultimately resulted into shelf warmers or dead inventory. That is how, for the first time in post-war Japan, sellers faced the reality that more inventory did not produce more sales. And by observing all these trends, Suzuki realized that profits can only be generated when demand was accurately read and forecasted. Otherwise, regardless of how big the retailer was, they would start bleeding money. So now the question was, how do you forecast the demand of the products? I mean, we are talking about the 1970s when computers were still alien to most people. Well, as it turns out, that is when Suzuki came out with something called the Tanpin Kanri system. And this system turned out to be so revolutionary that within just 5 years, the number of stores in Japan shot up by 52 times, from just 15 stores in 1974 to 801 stores in 1979. And the sales skyrocketed by 155 times, going from just 0.7 billion yen to 109.8 billion yen. The question is, what the hell was so special about this strategy that it resulted into such an explosive growth in just 5 years? To tell you about it, in the seller's market, the retailers blindly used to use the point of sale data in order to reorder the items sold. So if 2000 Haldiram Chudas are sold, they would just reorder 2000 Haldiram Chudas for the next month. But in the Tanpin Kanri system, what the philosophy says is that instead of blindly using the store data, the employees must use the data to identify why those items are selling, when those items are selling, and depending on the behavior of the customers, they should be able to predict the future demand of the products and then they should place the order. For example, while a normal employee would just reorder 2000 Haldiram Chudas, a 7-Eleven employee will analyze and understand that Haldiram Chudas usually get sold on a Monday. Why? Because a lot of women in the neighborhood fast in the name of Lord Shiva. Therefore, they will order Haldiram Chudas only on a Sunday so that the shelf space for the rest of the days could be utilized for other items, therefore leading to better inventory management. So if you see, the whole concept of the Tanpin country system is not about the data but the story behind the data that eventually is leading to better supply chain management. Similarly, 7-Eleven employees are trained to look at the micro changes in the customer behavior and then they deploy strategies at the store level in order to drive sales. And here are some of the many criteria used by the store managers of 7-Eleven, which even today are major drivers of growth for the company. The first criteria is that of daily routine. So in this case, if the store manager observes that many housewives often drop their kids at school and then they drive back home in order to cook lunch, the 7-Eleven team will actually put boards presenting the best lunch recipes. And along with that, they will also place all the ingredients needed to make that recipe. So if the recipe says paneer tikka, right alongside that board you will find everything from paneer, vegetables and even the pan needed to cook the paneer. This is what you call as the product assortment strategy. Number 2 is weather. So if rainy season comes by, the same store manager at the same store will do a product demonstration of the best detergents they have. Why? Because the kids would play in the mud and get their clothes dirty, right? So the same housewives will look for detergents in order to clean those stains, eventually resulting into very high detergent sales. Number 3 is time and affordability. Soon enough, 7-Eleven even started offering lunch boxes, and even while selling these boxes, they were extremely careful. For example, on 1st of October, the price of the lunch box would be 1500 yen, but on 28th of October, it would cost only 1000 yen. Why? Because the first of the month is payday, so people have enough money to spend, but by the end of the month, the budget is tight. And along with that, even the ingredients inside that box are changed in order to maintain profitability. So in the Indian context, in the first week if you get paneer, during the end of the month you will get bhindi as your sabji. And lastly, all this data is sent over in a consolidated format to the CEO who holds a bi-weekly meeting to understand and make changes to the supply chain. And one of the most extraordinary cases that I found was that on a certain Monday, they observed that in spite of being a long weekend, the sales were a little low. And upon analysis, they found out that many middle-aged customers went on a picnic while youngsters had gone on a trip. Now in this case, while most companies would claim it to be impossible to sell when nobody's in town, you know what the 7-Eleven guys did? They investigated deeper and found out although people did not buy stuff while they were out of town, they actually bought a lot of stuff before they went on a picnic. And that's when they found out that people actually bought salmon balls and apricots. So from the very next year itself, all the 7-Eleven stores in that neighborhood, when the holiday season came, were equipped with apricots and salmon balls. Therefore, from the following year onwards, they did not miss out on the sale opportunity. This was the level of micro-analysis done by both the 7-Eleven managers as well as the board of the company that resulted into a super efficient supply chain and an extraordinary store performance. Now I don't know if you see this, but then this is like Toyota's just-in-time system at the micro level, which has resulted into a super efficient inventory management. In fact, if you look at the numbers, from 1976 to 91, the average inventory value per store per month has fallen by 47%, going from 9 billion yen to 4.8 billion yen. And the best part is that during the exact same time, the average daily sales per store shot up by 72%, going from 365,000 yen to 629,000 yen. This is the insane supply chain management system of the 7-Eleven company. Fast forward to the modern day, they have consistently been the pioneers in embracing technology in order to make their systems more and more efficient. They set up their communication network linking the head office, stores and vendors way back in 1979 itself. And in the early 1998, they introduced the 5th generation information system using the internet, the intranet and satellite communication. And this in total costed them $522 million. And now they are taking it to the next level by using artificial intelligence to predict demand at the micro level. This is the story of the incredible 7-Eleven company. Now let's talk about the most important part of the episode, and that is, with all this expertise that 7-Eleven has, how is this going to benefit Reliance Industries? Before we move on, I want to thank our partners of today's episode, and that is Smallcase. Smallcase is this wonderful company that designs a basket of stocks to help you make the best investments in any given market condition. In this case of the retail wars, while most people will try to pick the winners among Reliance and Amazon, very few people will understand that the real winners of this retail revolution, regardless of who wins this e-commerce war, are the FMCG companies in India. And more specifically, those FMCG companies that can make affordable products for the middle class. So if you're someone who is very keen on investing into the best companies in this category, you must check out the great Indian middle class Smallcase. And this Smallcase has hand-picked stocks that have extremely high growth potential. The best part is that the Smallcase manager himself will automatically rebalance the stocks as per the market conditions to give you the best returns possible. And even if you don't want to invest, you could use my favorite feature in this app, and that are the news section and the newsletters to get the latest updates about the most important happenings in the market. And this feature has been very useful to me also while I curate my content and while I do my market research. So if you love the idea, download the Smallcase app from the link in the description. Moving on to the partnership of Reliance and 7-Eleven, the first and the obvious part is that we are witnessing the origins of the buyer's market in India. And with this partnership, Reliance will be able to extend its presence pan-India. Secondly, considering 7-Eleven's expertise with selling fast-moving goods, if the Tanpin country system is successfully implemented in India, it will give Reliance the superpower to build an extremely lean supply chain, which will enable them to sell both groceries and FMCG products with extremely high profitability. And this is going to make life very, very difficult for both Big Basket and Grofers because they are still struggling with profitability. Thirdly, this is going to make the retail wing of Reliance extremely powerful because now they have got 12,000 retail stores in the form of Reliance Mart, Reliance Fresh, Reliance Digital, JioMart, and now they've got 7-Eleven. And if you see, like we discussed in the Reliance Amazon video, this is a very, very powerful retail ecosystem which could also see the addition of future retail if they win the case. And last and most importantly, this is pretty far-fetched, but considering the fact that 7-Eleven has mastered the art of prepared food, if Reliance takes the right steps, we could be looking at a Reliance Cloud Kitchen also. Meanwhile, I'll attach a CNBC video of why 7-Eleven failed in Indonesia. So do have a look at it and tell me the potential weak points that 7-Eleven will face in India. And this is what brings me to the last segment of the episode, and that are the 3 important lessons to be learned from the iconic case study of 7-Eleven. Lesson number 1. While good organizations rely on cutting-edge data analytics and precise numbers, great organizations will go the extra mile to understand the story behind the data. And these companies are and will always be the winners of the modern day data revolution. Lesson number 2. In the 21st century, customer behavior is by far the most important variable that will determine the success and failure of any organization. So if you're someone who wants to read and understand behavioral science, I would highly recommend you to start with this book called Hooked, written by Nir Eyal. And last and most importantly, like I've said many times, the only difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. In this case, it was Suzuki's judgment and heavy investment into teaching the frontline staff about the intricacies of the customer behavior and the staff's ability to keep an eye on something as seemingly insignificant as the housewives going home or the kids playing in the dirt. And these observations are the ones that turned 7-Eleven into the most successful and the most profitable convenience store chain in the world. And that is all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.